Hey everyone, stepping on a Lego block here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a video where I talk about 10 albums that I have changed my mind on. Over the 10 plus years I have been doing this YouTube channel, I have reviewed thousands and thousands of albums. And given that humans are flawed and that opinions, especially when it comes to something as subjective as art, are totally based on experiences, perceptions, sometimes my opinions on records change so radically, or at least the growth or fall in enjoyment is so noticeable that I feel like I should probably talk about it. And that is the point of this series. Okay, let's start this list off with The Weeknd's House of Balloons. Now, this mixtape I have made a video about in the past on the Fantano channel in regards to my changing feelings on it. For deeper thoughts in that regard, you may want to check out that video. But quickly, I will say here, while my original review of the record was very negative, not feeling that way anymore. Or at least not as much. I still do see the project as kind of flawed, and I wouldn't say I love it at this point, but I'm not really as dismissive about it as I once was, and I feel like you kind of can't be at this point, given that this project and really everything Abel did in this early Weeknd trilogy changed the trajectory of R&B for the next 10 years. The dark, atmospheric, moody aesthetics of this record pretty much seeped into most of the R&B canon for the 2010s. And love it or not, that is quite an impressive feat, especially for an artist who seemingly dropped out of nowhere on the internet with a bunch of free mixtapes. So while I do think there are some elements in terms of singing and songwriting on this project that Abel would go on to improve with, especially on the Echoes of Silence tape, which I much prefer to this, still, House of Balloons was the inception point. And even if there are aspects to the execution that I wish were better, a lot of the core ideas and aesthetics were there and are great. So again, I do still have my reservations with this project, but I much more respect where it's coming from in retrospect. Next on this list, I would put Mac Miller's Swimming, which if you guys have been following this channel closely, you recently saw I did a Redux review for that. And yeah, my feelings on the record have changed pretty wildly, especially given that I've had the chance to listen to his posthumous and Amazing Circles record, not to mention my attachment to some of his earlier work is kind of gone at this point, and I'm not so much looking at this album in the same vein as I would Divine Feminine, which I also was not like the biggest fan of. Plus, I think I, like many, find many of the personal themes of struggle and emotional turmoil on the album to have a lot more impact given Mac's passing, of course. If you want fuller thoughts on everything I'm enjoying about the album now as opposed to back when I originally reviewed it, I recommend you check out the Redux video. But for sure, my feelings on the project have definitely shifted, and that's why it's in this list here. Next on this list, I want to shout out the Nails album Abandon All Life. Nails, for anybody who isn't in the know, is easily one of the most brutal and unforgiving groups in metalcore, in power violence, in grindcore. They broke onto the scene in 2010 with one of the greatest records in these genres of all time, Unsilent Death. A record that year after year seemingly becomes more like relevant and significant to these styles. And because of that, following this album up was, of course, going to be a very big and a very difficult challenge. Abandon All Life was that follow-up, and I think Nails on this record did everything they could to play louder, harsher, faster in some cases. And as a result of that, I think I wasn't taking to the record quite as well as I did Unsilent Death. It just didn't feel as catchy or as visceral to me in some pockets. There were tracks and moments that really kind of went by in a blur. Some of the vocal passages that had more of like a shrieky quality to them didn't play as much for me either at the time. However, in retrospect, I am much more enjoying the slightly more extreme approach the band was taking on this one. After listening to the follow-up to that, You Will Never Be One of Us, I actually kind of see this record as a little experimental for the band. And I did like it upon its original release, but at this point I would say I love it and hold it in as high regard as anything Nails has dropped up until this point. The next record I would like to shout out in this list is Anderson .Paak's Malibu, the breakout album from this West Coast singer, producer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist who is one of the biggest and most talented stars in the mainstream today, who absolutely deserves all of the accolades and attention and love and adoration that he's been getting over the years. And even on this breakout moment, his work was impressive, and I did enjoy the album at the time, but I feel like I lowballed the album ever so slightly. And while, yeah, I do see some of my reservations with it originally, it is a little all over the place. There are a few tracks that are kind of one-dimensional. It is a very long project, and on top of it, Silicon Valley may be one of his most ill-conceived songs ever. But again, with that being said, his vocal talent, his lyrical talent, his versatility, his production and songwriting chops, his personality, his wit, his vibrance, his flair, everything that makes Anderson Anderson was on full display on this record, even if it did not come off as honed as it did on later projects. The fusions of soul and rap and funk and R&B and pop and everything in between are just too good. They're too unique. They're too seamless. They're too sharp, and they're too smart. And at the time I reviewed it, I think I could have heaped a bit more praise onto it. So I want to do that here. I'm doing that now. Here it is. Yeah, it's great. I love it now. Listen to it. It's awesome. So next on this list, we have SZA's Control. Also a record I've talked about in videos as of late, in terms of it growing on me over the years. In a way, this album very much has a similar trajectory for me personally as that of The Weeknd's House of Balloons. It came out, it had some great ideas on it, and those ideas made a gigantic splash within the genre, within the lane it operates in, and it's through those changes, it's through that fanfare, and it's through that repeated exposure that over the years I've just kind of warmed up to the record. Now, in my defense, I did like it when it originally came out, but I'm most definitely at a point now where I love it, and it was handily one of the better records of that year, and one of the greatest R&B records of the 2010s, which of course I was happy to hear SZA successfully follow up with SOS not too long ago, improving on everything from her vocal chops to her songwriting. SOS I enjoy for being such a cerebral and emotional experience. Control I have appreciated a lot more in retrospect for being as direct as it is, as catchy, as straightforward, and as being as effective as it was in terms of ushering in some new vibes and aesthetics, just a more refreshing sound for R&B in general. Because if Abel was the king of the style in the 2010s, I would say SZA was the queen, even if it's just off this one record. Next on the list, I would like to talk about the Macklemore and Ryan Lewis album, The Heist, which I enjoyed when it was released originally. I wasn't over the moon for it or anything like that, but I thought it was some pretty decent pop rap with some songs here and there that were super meaningful or even a little tongue-in-cheek, a thrift shop. And you know what? While the album was cool, for some food for thought here and there, and while it was fun when it originally dropped, the album over the years hasn't shown itself to have a lot of shelf life, honestly. Yeah, in a lot of ways, I think this record becomes more and more of an eye roll every year, and while I'm not embarrassed about, having enjoyed it at the time, I just don't really get anything out of it at this point, and it's just kind of okay. I think there's just way more essential hip-hop out there, especially hip-hop around this point in time. I mean, Good Kid, Mad City, I don't think I need to kind of bring up the whole to-do with that at this point, right? But yeah, for the crime of not aging well, I think The Heist has pretty much been demoted in my eyes and ears, and I just see no reason to go back to it these days in 2023. Following that on this list, I want to shout out the Billy Woods album, Today I Wrote Nothing, which, yes, was an album I enjoyed when it came out. I enjoy most of Billy Woods' work, and I think it's amazing how since the release of this album, this era in his career, he's grown quite a bit in terms of profile and fan base, becoming one of the most popular and influential abstract hip-hop artists out there today. And Today I Wrote Nothing is a project that over the years, I've just found myself going back more and more to, sometimes more often than albums in his back catalog that I've reviewed more positively. And while I get my sentiments about the record overall at the time because it has a very long track list, a lot of the tracks on the record are very short, I assume in an attempt to engage in this kind of like little songwriting experiment where it seems like Billy is just trying to get a very rough and quick idea out there as fast as possible. Of course, this leads to a very disjointed flow for the album overall, but still, some of Billy's most potent songs and most memorable lyrics and most hard-hitting song topics all happen within these very short bursts of time. And I think that's enough to make this one of his better records. And, I really kind of commend him for adhering to this little writing experiment as well as he did at the time. Maybe because there's so much change, there's so much material, there's so much variation across the record on this one, it needed some more time to process for me personally, I don't know. But either way, over the years, the record has grown on me, and I see it as great and fantastic as pretty much everything Billy has put out up until this point. Certainly loving it a lot more than I used to. All right, this next one's kind of funny because I believe in one of my previous videos talking about albums I changed my mind on, we had Mac DeMarco's 2 talking about how that record kind of grew on me. And now in this list here, we have Mac DeMarco's Salad Days, which I was much more on the fence with at the time when it came out. I did enjoy 2 slightly. And look, I don't think the record's a perfect record. I think some of my criticisms of it still hold up in terms of there being lazy songs on here, in terms of it being a little under-delivered with energy, the vocal performance. It's not the most versatile record on the block either, and I think over the years it's kind of unfortunate how Mac DeMarco has become almost like the poster child for very kind of laid-back and mediocre indie pop and rock for teenagers. Still, I will say this, Mac DeMarco knows his way around a very easy-going earworm, and there are quite a few standout melodies on this record as well. Maybe the singles at the end of the day that were proven to really be kind of the best material on the entire thing. But the record has grown on me over the years. If I'm just kind of, listening to it in a very chill, vibey setting, it's great. It's amazing. It's fantastic. I don't think it's the kind of album that stands up to a whole lot of intense listening, to a whole lot of analysis or anything like that. It's sweet. It's fine. It's chill. It's enjoyable. I mean, sure, it may be more style than substance at the end of the day, but it's a very good style. It's a good style. It's a good style. Okay, next on this list, we have a few more. I want to shout out AJ's Knife Man, the band formerly known as Andrew Jackson Jihad. This is easily their grandest musical statement. That's probably going to remain to be so for the rest of their career. If you're unfamiliar with the group, they began as one of the most celebrated and exciting outfits in folk punk. Knife Man still very much borrows from that folk punk tradition, but there's a lot of electric instrumentation on this thing, country instrumentation. There's a lot of production versatility. It's not nearly as acoustic or raw as the records that kind of brought the band up until this point. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I think it's really awesome they kind of grew into the ideas and aesthetics that they did on Knife Man. It is a very grand musical statement and has a lot of very essential songs on it that tear apart the busted seams of modern society. There's commentary, there's personal turmoil on this project that is just absolutely, positively gut-wrenching, and I would say more essential now than it's ever been. Plus, add on top of that, killer performances, a fantastic amount of wit. This record sees through all the bullshit, and it's singing it out as loudly as it possibly can. It has a super strong start, a fantastic finale at the end, and pretty much every moment in the middle is really enjoyable as well, not too much in terms of speed bumps along the way. And while I did love and enjoy this album at the time when it came out, I feel like I still undersold it a little. I think I could have gone harder in terms of my love for this record because I just seem to enjoy it more and more and more every year. So yeah, AJJ Knife Man, if this is an album that you have not made a part of your listening diet at any point, and you are into punk music, into folk music, into singer-songwriter music, and you love a record that has quite a bit of social commentary on it, you should absolutely positively listen to this. It's fantastic. Love it. love it. And now, since it's in this video, I'm loving it even more, apparently. Okay, final album in this list, I have to say, is one that I didn't actually even really get the chance to review on YouTube in a formal sense, but I used to not enjoy it at all. That would be the self-titled Vampire Weekend album. Truth be told, when Vampire Weekend originally burst onto the scene, I did not take them all that seriously. I thought a lot of their songs, especially A-Punk, were kind of silly. Didn't really get like the weird upper crust Ivy League thing. I did not, get the cross-cultural music aesthetic thing going on that felt a little tacky here and there. Song titles such as Cape Cod Quassa Quassa still make me roll my eyes to this day. And I feel like every Vampire Weekend album has at least that one song that is the most annoying one on the record. Blake's got a new face! Yeah, that's the one. But with that being said, A-Punk has grown on me quite a bit over the years. Oxford Comma is a great song. Freaking I Stand Corrected is a great song. Yeah, it doesn't make me reel in disgust like it did at one point, which I'm surprised it took me as long as it did to warm up to this one, because I did enjoy Contra when it originally came out. But whatever, we're reviewing thousands of albums, we're giving lots of opinions. Some of them are going to change inevitably, and there's 10 more for you that I've had a change in heart on. You're the best. Thank you for watching. Love you, love you. Transition, have you given any of these albums a listen? Did you love them or hate them when they originally came out? Has your opinion on any of them changed over the years? Let me know. 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 You're the best. You're the best. You're the best. Best. Anthony Fantano over here next to my head is another video you can check out. And music, change, opinions, forever.